Hi, it's Jeff Cooke here at G4 Guitar in Butler, Western Australia. Today we're going to talk about scales and, more importantly, how we can write songs using scales. Okay, this is going to involve a little bit of theory, but you should already know a few scales, and now we're going to find out one of the uses we can make of those scales. At this stage, I'm assuming you're at Senior Level 2. Okay, by this time you should have learned a few scales. You should have at least learned the first 4 scales, which are C major, G major, the G to G scale, and the E minor pentatonic. Okay, we're going to start with the scale of C major because this keeps it fairly simple. Okay, so the scale of C major has 8 notes. Or more accurately, 7 notes, because the first note C and the last note C are effectively the same note. Now, one of the important things about the scale as it regards to chords are the chord tones or chord notes. Now, the chord notes for the basic chords, what we call triads, are the first, the third note, and the 5th note. Okay, so the first, third, and 5th note of the scale. In this case, that is C, that is E, and that is G. C, E, and G. Put those together, and we have a basic chord, C major chord. The important thing is the first, third, and 5th of the scale are your basic chords. Okay, from that we have got C major as a chord. We can also go up the scale to the 2nd note. In the scale of C major, the 2nd note is D. We can actually build a chord on that note as well. I'm going to play D here. You'll see why in a minute. Okay, so we're going to pick up these 3 notes. Right, that is the D. That is the F and the A. D, F and A. Put them together. We get this chord. You may not recognise this chord at this point, but it is actually a D minor chord, which if you're on level 2 you should know by now. Okay, at this point let's pause a while and take a look at the 2 chords that we just created. If we look at the C chord and then we look at the D minor chord, you might see that there's a similarity in the way the chords are constructed. From the first note of each chord, we then skip the following note, then use the note after that. In the same way, we skip the note following and then use the note after that one. So on the first chord we get the first note of the scale, the 3rd note of the scale, and the 5th note. And on the 2nd note, the chord that we construct upon the 2nd note, we're going to take the 2nd note, the 4th note, and the 6th note. From this we can see that going up the scale, we're then going to use the 3rd note, go to the 5th note, and then go to the 7th note, and so on. And this is how we construct chords from the major scale. In fact, as we'll see in later lessons, this is also how we construct chords from the minor scale. The distance between any 2 notes is referred to as an interval. So the whole point of this, as you can see from the diagram, is that we're basically taking every other note in the scale. So we started with C, so we're starting from the root note of the scale, the first note of the scale, and we took the 1st, the 3rd and the 5th, and then we started from the 2nd note of the scale, We jumped a note and we went to the 4th note of the scale. We jumped a note again and we went to the 6th note of the scale and got D minor, which is the same as that. Okay, we can continue to go up the scale and do this. So we go to the 3rd note of the scale, which is E. We get another minor chord, which is now E minor, which we normally play like this. Okay, we go further up the scale, we go to F. This time we get a major chord. Okay, if we continue up the scale in this way, as you will see from the diagram, we're going to get, if we do play all the chords in order, we're going to get C, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, B diminished, and then C again. Now the B diminished chord, a strange sounding chord. Why it's called the B diminished chord, we'll talk about in another lesson. A little bit more theory than we want to go into at this point, but it's a useful chord nonetheless. Okay, so if we play those chords that we've just discovered or worked out from the scale, and we play them quickly, you can almost hear the scale in them. Okay, here's the scale. And here's the chords again. Okay, you can actually hear the scale going up in those chords. The great thing about this for writing songs, which is where we get to the real point of this lesson, is that now you know the chords which will go with the scale of C major. So that means if we want to write a song in the key of C major, and when we're talking about the key of C major or any other key, we're actually talking about the scale and the chords that go with that scale. That gives us the key. The same thing can be said of A minor. We know the chords and the scale that go with it. Interestingly, the chords of A minor are exactly the same as the chords of C major. They're just in a different order. But again, more of that later. So, if we have the scale and we have the chords, we can now use any of those chords to make a song. For instance, if I want to go, okay, I'm going to pick the first chord to start with, and I'm going to D minor, E minor, and F. So it's C, D minor, E minor, and F. Now that sounds quite musical. Now obviously that's in the order of the scale. Okay, I went 1, 2, 3, 4 chords. We don't have to do that. We can do these in any order. Some orders might be more pleasing than others. Later on you'll discover there are formulas that we can use to decide which chords go together best and what order to place them in. But for the time being, it's just an easier option to fool around with the chords a bit and try and find combinations that you like. So you can go, let's take a random combination of C and G and maybe D minor. Got that one. A lot of songs come in more than one section, however, we might want to do a different section from that. Probably a good idea to start on a different chord than your first section if you want to do a section 2, maybe a chorus or something. So maybe I'll go to E minor now. Yeah, and you can put those two sections together and make a song. Okay, this is part 1 of this idea of writing songs from scales. Next time we're going to look at a chord progression basic, and then see how we can actually use a scale to write a melody to go with that.